On January 5th, I made 9 predictions about Russian economy for the upcoming year, 2024. And this is what I said.
Of 2022, Russian leadership shot Russia down on both feet and started the process of country's demise. I also believe that in the last 23 months, Russian economy had been kept afloat due to large previously accumulated reserves and professional policy maneuvering by the central bank. I truly believe that in 2024, economic situation in the country will drastically and visibly decline. The time has come. The payback is here. Russia is due to what I call a hard landing of what's coming to Russia in 2024. Time to make predictions for this year. Please mark my words down and check me at the end of the year. Even better, I will check myself just like I checked myself for the predictions I made for 2023, and I'll make a stream about it. So please come back in about 360 days.
Guess what? It's been 360 days, and I am making that live stream I promised you today, right now. I will dust off my predictions for 2024, and together with you, we'll find out whether I was right or wrong. Howdy, howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. As usual, you will not find here propaganda, BS, or lies, but will find truth, common sense, and logic, and some emotions because I'm a human being after all. Friends, it's hard to believe it's been a year, and in the beginning of every year I make forecasts, economic forecasts, political forecasts, and social forecasts, but I excel at economical forecasts because I love the economy, I love studying it, monitoring and comparing, and I'm an economist. My trade is economics. So that's what I want to do. I try to walk the walk. I promised something and I'm delivering. So let's jump into the predictions. There were 9 predictions made in January, and let's see how well they have stood up. Let's start with the prediction number 1.
Number 1, economic growth will stop. Towards the end of 2024, the signs of economic decline will be seen. Let me explain very briefly. Russian economy grew by about 3% in 2023. The growth was artificial, fueled by the war, filled with government's orders, so to speak. All companies that manufacture all military stuff to be used in Ukraine and the war, they grew tremendously. Most civil industries have declined, and
Well, what I have said is true. It has proved to be true. And when I was making the forecast, I knew what was coming. So it was really easy to forecast. So I predicted the decline of shrinking, destruction of civil sector of economy and growth of the military industrial one.
in 2024, economic growth is no more. And there are 3 reasons for that. First, the military industrial complex is at full operating capacity. Second, there's lack of investments, both foreign and Russian. All investors have left, both foreign and Russian. The only investor that remains in Russia is Russian government. No investments equals no growth. And Russian government is not aiming at investing in the long-term projects at this point. And number three, the third reason is the labor force of Russia is shrinking. Fewer people in the workforce means no growth, only decline.
Now, I would like to explain in a little more details. I mentioned three major reasons for the decline. The first reason is maxing out capacity, production capacity at the military-industrial complex. Second reason, investors leaving, drying economy out of money, and Russian government becoming the only investor left in the country. And number three, shrinking labor force. All true. And actually, in the beginning of 2024, I didn't think that things would get so bad, so fast, or so quick. I missed one thing out, and I'm going to tell you right now. But first, military-industrial complex maxed out its production capacity. That happened. Okay, military-industrial complex enterprises that produce death, they cannot produce anymore. They work in 3 shifts, and there are only so many factories in Russia. And you can't build a factory just like that. It takes years. It takes lots of financial engineering, and it takes a lot of technology, foreign technology. That Russia lacks everything now. So the war economy, the military-industrial complex isn't growing. It's working at max capacity. This absolutely, that's right. Second reason, investments leaving Russia. Well, back in 2022, all foreign investors left. Russian government was hoping to bring Chinese and Indian investors, but you know what? Wishful thinking. None came. And Russian government remained the only investor. Basically, if Russian company wants to build something, build a factory, build an industrial facility, the only source to get financing is the federal budget. And the federal budget finances military-industrial enterprises, but it does not finance civic enterprises. So what's happened, there has been a tremendous decline in the civic part of economy. The regular economy, I should say. And it's been growth in the military-industrial complex. Well, the military-industrial complex is not growing as fast as it used to back in 22 and 23. It has plateaued. For a couple months in 2024, the growth actually disappeared and decline appeared. But then the growth it bounced back. So there is an overall growth, and it's just the growth has slowed down tremendously. And if we look at the civil economy, there's a huge decline. But if you combine both parts of the economy, because the economy is one, so if you combine both, then you will get an overall growth of economy. And the driver of that is the military-industrial complex. So technically, forecast number one, I am wrong. I said that in 2024 there will be a decline. No, there is no decline. But there's a great slowdown. Basically, what I am mistaken, and I'm the best judge of myself, so I got this one wrong. But it's a matter of time. Russia will enter the period of decline. It will happen a little later than I expected. I expected at the end of this year. No, it might happen at the end of 25, perhaps second part of 25, perhaps early 26. I don't know. I'm going to make another video where I will be making forecasts for 2025, and that's going to be released on January 2nd. So I will talk more about that, but technically I was wrong, but fundamentally I was right. But this, being a judge of myself, a pretty strict judge, I'm saying this one is wrong. There was no decline, but there has been a tremendous slowdown of Russian economy. So, prediction number 2.
Prediction number 2, beginning of death of market economy. Now, this is a good one. Have brought the USSR back. I mean, everyone's been saying, oh, the USSR is back, and lots of Russians, for the reasons that beat me, have been welcoming this change. Well, this is it. This is it. They're going to be reaping the rewards now. And it's getting ugly again. The state is getting ugly. First, it'll continue nationalizing businesses. Well, in other words, stealing businesses from rightful owners. The number of cases nationalized businesses already is growing. Second, it'll start regulating prices. That's not good. And third, civil manufacturers will be forced to turn into military production, completely or partially.
Now, again, 3 reasons. Prediction number 2 is Russia losing market economy. Instead, its economy will be turned into state-controlled economy. And why it would become so is that Russian state has run out of money. And that is also connected to prediction forecast number 1. So why there has been a slowdown in economic growth? Because Russia in the past had a large savings account, and it's been using money from that savings account, it's called the Fund of National Welfare, to cover budget deficits and basically to flood the war economy, the military-industrial complex, with money. But the thing is, a savings account, if you start using it excessively, it's going to run out. Money is going to run out sooner or later, and it has run out, okay? That's why I am downgrading my forecast for 26, but again, tune in to another video on January 2nd. So when Russian government does not have this great, absolutely great tool of influencing people and companies in the economy, giving out money, once it runs out of money, what does it do? It starts punishing, it starts controlling, it starts telling people, entrepreneurs, what to do. So again, I gave 3 reasons for Russia becoming non-market economy. The first reason is, I call it the great nationalization. When I was making the forecast, I didn't know this term. Okay, I knew it was coming, but holy moly, it has come. It landed in Russia in about summer of this past year. And Russian state simply started stealing large companies from rightful owners and redistributing them between the ones who are in the power, who are close to Vladimir Putin. I will give you a few examples. A French company called Danone, it was simply stolen from the rightful owners and given to Chechen friends of Vladimir Putin. A Danish company called Baltica, Russia's largest brewery, was stolen from rightful owners and given to Vladimir Putin's friends. Rolf, Russia's largest auto dealer, was stolen from a rightful owner. They call it nationalized, okay? Rolf, Vladimir Putin signed an executive order seizing it from owners, the guy who founded the company, and giving it to his former bodyguard or people connected to his former bodyguard. The other companies, the state simply sues the owners, saying that the company was acquired or privatized wrongfully, and voila, the suit rules that it is true. There was, something was done wrong. Depending on the case, they come up with different reasons, and the state seizes the property without compensation. So reason number two, right. Reason number one for Russia becoming non-market economy, I was right on. So what was reason number two?
Have brought the USSR back. It's now. And it's getting ugly again. The state is
Sure is getting ugly, very ugly.
First, it'll continue nationalizing businesses. Well, in other words, stealing businesses from rightful owners. The number of cases nationalized businesses already is growing.
At this point, at the end of 2024, there are 716 enterprises for future nationalization on a secret list that is circulating in the upper echelons of Russia's power. 706 enterprises. Some of them have been nationalized already, quite a few, but hundreds more will be nationalized. It's getting ugly. It has gotten ugly already.
Second, it'll start regulating prices. That's not good.
Second, regulating prices. We have seen lately that Russian state has started regulating prices. Inflation is growing. It's at the highest since 2002, record high, absolute record high. And the prices are up. They're skyrocketing for many items, for many products, including food staples, such as potatoes, sugar, baking flour, that regular people use every day. And the Russian state, some agencies acting on behalf of Russian state, to be precise, the Prosecutor General's office, they paid quite a few visits to Russian retail food stores and threatened. They basically forbade retailers to raise prices. And retailers are stuck between the rock and the hard place, because what can they do if the manufacturers are seeing the cost of their products skyrocketing? Therefore, they simply raising the price. And then they supply to retailers, and retailers are forbidden to sell above certain price by the Prosecutor General. This is insane. I have heard reports from more than a dozen Russian provinces, and especially the Prosecutor General's office has been very active recently before New Year holidays, because that's where Russians show up a lot for food, and though they basically don't want to scare Russians too much before the New Year. They don't want, the Russians will have a lot of free time on their hands, almost 2 weeks, and basically the state wants to keep the Russians quiet, peaceful and quiet. New Year will come and pass, and after that, the retailers will be forced to raise the prices to stay in business, okay? So we have seen that. It is happening, and it's also very ugly, and it's going to lead to a huge disbalance in the economy. Like I said, it's not market economy any longer. And number three, the reason number three was that Russian companies will be forced to produce military products. There are legal basis there. There were quite a few laws introduced, new laws and old laws amended in the summer of 2022, and I covered that on my live streams. So the legal basis there. I have heard of a few cases when the state demands certain companies to produce products, war products, mostly drones, because that's what Russia needs the most. But they have been very few cases, just very few, you know. And Russian state is ready to do that. As soon as Russian state needs more capacity, as soon as it runs out of money to keep on paying the military industrial complex enterprises, I think that's going to happen. But we have seen the start of it. So all three reasons we're seeing in action, and I am giving forecast number 2 a check mark. I was right. I was very right. Very, very right. We have been seeing Russian economy becoming more and more state-controlled throughout the year. So, moving on. Prediction number 3.
Russia's bread makers, oil and gas, will be declining. Shrinking. Two reasons for that. Global prices falling. As we see everywhere, global market prices are lower, and they're getting lower. And we're seeing that India has stopped buying a great deal of Russian oil recently, just in a couple last weeks, stating that Russia does not provide attractive discounts anymore, and they're getting them from other places. And second, circumventing sanctions that Russia has been doing fairly well in 2023 will become increasingly difficult because the Western countries, including the United States of America, led by the USA, are really starting to pay attention to this process of Russia circumventing sanctions. And it's going to be increasingly difficult for Russia to sell export oil to other countries above the price cap, which is fairly low.
So, historically, Russia has had two bread makers: oil and natural gas exports. Both bread makers, in the best years and the richest years, contributed almost 50% to the Russian federal budget. And in January, I forecasted that the bread makers, the revenues received from oil and natural gas export revenues will be further declining. Two reasons: falling prices, global prices, and secondary sanctions. I was right about, well, I have been right about both reasons. The prices have fallen, not a great deal since January, but they have fallen. And right now, in the low 70s per barrel, low 70s per each barrel. And the second reason is more complicated. The Western community, the Western countries have been tightening the secondary sanctions. And one of the areas to watch for the secondary sanctions is the shadow fleet of Russian oil tankers. Russia acquired in different ways, bought off the owners for primary purpose to sail oil tankers. Sometimes it bought tankers that were supposed to be scrapped for metal. In different ways, it acquired a large fleet of shadow tankers. It's called a shadow fleet. Basically, these tankers are registered in different countries and they have no direct connection to Russia, but they are used by Russian oil companies, by the brokers, to transport Russian oil and sell it. Russia was buying up old tankers back in 2023 after the oil sanctions were implemented in December of 2022. One of the problems is that the tankers that were bought or acquired, they are very old and they're not reliable. And Russia has been trying to use everything that basically floats to transport oil. And I also forecasted that a natural disaster just waiting to happen. And I was right as well. Just a couple weeks ago, there was a huge disaster in the Black Sea. An oil tanker just broke into two pieces, and about 5,000 different experts give different estimates from 45 to 100 metric tons of heating oil, mazout, spilled into the sea, into the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. And right now, Russia is undergoing ecological catastrophe. And this is just the beginning. Just one tanker wasn't supposed to be sailing in the sea. It was a river tanker, but hey, they used desperate measures. They tried to sail it to transport oil in the Black Sea, and a catastrophe happened. And this is just the first one, but definitely not the last one. And the Western companies, specifically the United States of America, has been putting a lot of efforts to identify oil tankers from the shadow fleet and sanction them, sanction people who are involved in transactions and transportation, and companies. And so far, there are 67 tankers on the list, sanctions list from the shadow fleet, and the number is growing. So both reasons we are seeing happening in 2024, and Russia has definitely seen the decline in the bread makers' revenue. So I was definitely right about that.
Prediction number 4.
So prediction number 4.
Prediction number 4. There will be shortages, like real shortages. Main reason for that is price control. You see, this is how real world works. You can have plenty of products at high price, or you can have very few products but at low price.
Well, shortages. Somehow when I say shortages, people immediately think food shortages. And no, not food shortages. Although, why not? The first shortages that Russians have seen are much worse than food shortages. In 2024, Russian people started seeing shortages of medicine, different antibiotics, different hormones. And right now there is a crisis going on. The saline solution that is being used for IVs is in shortage. Basically, why is it happening? Why is it so in Russia? Very simple. a lot of Western companies have stopped supplying Russia the materials for medicines. Okay, a lot of companies in the West and in India. First of all, there is no sanction forbidding Western companies or any companies to supply medical supplies to Russia. But they doing it at their own will. They're not supplying Russia some medicines and some materials, some ingredients to make medicines in Russia. That's number one. And some companies, most all Western companies have left Russian market, and simply some drugs Russians cannot reproduce. They cannot produce them. That is a problem. And another problem, I think it's going to be even a bigger problem, is that a Russian government is also probing, regulating prices for drugs. And the saline solution, people need a lot of it, okay? I think that's how it's called, fizrastor. That solution that is put into IV, certain drugs are dissolved and put into the veins, into the blood of people. So that is very inexpensive product, okay? And Russian pharmaceutical companies simply find it not worth producing, not economically viable if the state starts regulating the price. Listen to my words, listen to what I say back in January.
Prediction number 4. There will be shortages, like works. You can have plenty of products at high price, or you can have very few products, but at low price.
And this is exactly what is happening. When the government starts regulating markets, saying you cannot sell this product at higher than this price, then the manufacturer simply says, well, you know what? I'm not going to produce it because I'm not going to lose money on every unit produced. It doesn't make any sense because, government isn't paying my bills. Government isn't financing me. Government isn't giving me loans. No, I do it myself as a businessman. Okay, I run a company, but the government demands me to not sell at prices higher than certain level. So it doesn't make sense. If my costs are higher, then it's economically not viable to sell things. Same is going to happen in the food industry. We're seeing a few products that are in dire situation, the manufacturers of a few products. I can't even say there was a scandal. There's an association of chocolatiers in Russia, chocolate producers, and they are terrified because cocoa beans have increased in price worldwide, and in Russia even more so because Russian producers have to buy from abroad and pay in US dollars. And the exchange rate is, Russian ruble has devalued almost 30% in the last 3 months, okay? So it means that they're paying 1/3 more for the chocolate in rubles, but they cannot sell their chocolate higher than certain prices. The prosecutor general's office does not allow them. And if they attempt, there are investigations, and they're warned, hey, don't do that. And the prosecutor's general's office give this very odd explanation why they force manufacturers not to increase prices. They call it unjustified price increase. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But then, well, that's actually not really, because as back in the USSR, that was called the planned economy. And now Russian economy is descending into the planned economy madness again. So there will be shortages. And yes, in 2024, Russia has started seeing the shortages already. It's not a mass event. If you go to different stores, you will not see shortages. But if you're looking for specific products, then yes, you will see shortages. To name another product is chemotherapy. We know well because we have bought chemotherapy courses, the sets for 5 people in Russia, because they simply cannot buy them in Russia. It is not sold in Russia any longer. So they call us in Uzbekistan, ask, we go to a pharmacy, and when someone flies to Russia, we give it, and that person, somehow passes to people who need it. So that's pretty terrible. And in 2026, we will start seeing increasing of this phenomena. So I'm giving it green mark. I was right about this forecast. We have started seeing shortages in Russia.
It holds value much better. So,
unfortunately, I'm missing a video here. Hang on one second, but I remember quite well what that was about. Basically, my fifth forecast was about alternative financial system. I said it's more of a speculation than a forecast, but I have a gut feeling. I had a gut feeling in January that there's some kind of a parallel financial system would start appearing in Russia. The reason for that is inflation is skyrocketing. It was increasing in the beginning of the year. Now it's pretty darn bad. Like I said, it's record high for inflation since 2002. And I forecasted that people in Russia will come up with some odd way to buy and sell products instead of using Russian ruble, because Russian ruble has been losing value. And I suggested that it'll be gold. Small pieces of gold, like 1 gram, 3 grams, 5 grams, something like that.
it holds value much better. So my prediction number 5, they will have a parallel financial system in Russia. At least it'll start appearing in 2024.
Well, you know what? A big yes. A big yes. I was wrong about the means, about gold, but I was right about the birth of parallel financial system. You see, what happened in 2024, on the very first day, Turkey has limited financial transactioning with Russia a great deal, because U.S. Secretary Antony Blinken traveled to Turkey right before New Year a year ago and warned Turkish banks that if they keep transacting with Russians, they would be placed under U.S. sanctions. And the Turks listened, and they stopped doing transactions. And it was a big problem, still is, It's really hard to pay to Turkish companies for them transporting products, goods to Russia, because Turkish banks simply refuse payments. So it started with Turkey, and then right after Chinese New Year in February of 2024, the same thing started happening with the Chinese. All of a sudden, it was the Chinese. It were the Chinese who started refusing taking money from Russian banks. The reason was the same. Antony Blinken traveled to China and warned the Chinese banks that the US will place sanctions if the banks continue to do business with Russia. And it was the large Chinese banks at first, and then turned to smaller banks too. And right now, it's pretty darn hard to transact, to send money to China. They freeze for up to 60 days, they return the money, and it's been a huge pain in the neck for Russian companies. But they got to do business, they got to buy things, they got to import. So they have come up with a shadow way, a shadow system to pay for the goods that they need from China, and that is cryptocurrency. I know quite a few companies in Russia who started using cryptocurrency in the summer of 2024 to pay for goods from China. And in China, cryptocurrency is illegal. But, when you really need to do something, you find ways. Yes, it is much more expensive. It is much more riskier. A lot of Russian companies have fell victims of scammers from China, but they're forced to do the transacting in the cryptocurrency. I think that the gold trade will take place, but not in the near future. But we have seen the birth of a new financial system. Perhaps it might be banned by the state, or the state will try to regulate it. We don't know. I'll talk about it on January 2nd. Please tune in. So, at this point, let me take a little break, take a sip of this wonderful English breakfast tea. I love it. I drink two brands. One is Twinings English breakfast tea extra strong. Another one is Taylor's at Harrogate Yorkshire Gold. That's a great tea also. Anyway, I'm not sponsored by these companies. I just like their products. So after the sip, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for watching today's video. Thank you for supporting me by liking videos in general and liking this video. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your emails, wonderful words, wishes. Thank you for prayers. Thank you for love and for coffees that you send me through Buy Me Coffee. Thank you for Patreon, for all patrons who support me at Patreon, and thank you for those who support through PayPal. Thank you, friends. Still demonetized, still not making a penny from YouTube, but monetized or not, monetized or demonetized, I promise that I will keep on going. I have been for the past almost 5 months now. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Moving on to the next prediction. Is it prediction number 6?
My prediction number 6 is inflation. Oh boy, this is actually the key prediction, the key thing to watch for. I predict that it'll be the biggest thing affecting country's economy in 2024. It'll be spoken around everywhere, every single day. People will feel it every single day with their pockets. in their lives. The businesses will feel it every single day, and it'll be increasing every single way. Inflation, it'll be higher, and higher. It's going to be topic numero uno in Russia in 2024. Please mark my words.
Do I need to say anything at this point? I'm just gonna do this. Ba-bang. Inflation is the record high right now. Russia's central bank has been trying to fight it for the entire 2024. But just like I said, they can't. Because they keep on increasing the key interest rate. And that's the real tool that all central banks have, all the central banks in the world have. But you cannot, basically what they're doing, this is a boat that is sinking, and they have installed two large sump pumps and pumping water out. But on the other side of the boat, they just put in more water in. They are flooding the economy with money. In the recent news, they have flooded additional 2 trillion rubles. The basically Russian government turned on printing press. And the key interest rate is at the highest that Russia has ever seen, 21%. That's crazy. Russian mortgages at the commercial banks for regular people start around 29-30% now. And the latest news is Russia's central bank is thinking about introducing a mandatory test for knowing personal finances for everyone who wants to take out mortgage at the rate above 30%. So in other words, Russia's central bank will be testing people because the central bank thinks that whoever takes out a loan at about 30%, a mortgage about 30%, are either stupid or they simply don't have a clue of personal finances, okay? This is how bad it's gotten. All Russian markets fell victims of high inflation. Russian people are feeling the pinch. Everyone who I speak with complain or mention the prices that are so high these days that everyone is kind of shocked. Well, this prediction definitely turned out to be right.
And we're moving to the next prediction. That's number 7. Despite of all that Russia is going through and will be going through in 2024, the country will not completely run out of money. And this is very, it's not an easy prediction to explain. But I predict what Russian government will do is they will lower the rate upper the rate to 100 rubles per dollar in late summer. I predict.
Well, I was talking about the exchange rate, currency exchange rate. So the main exchange rate is the main currency in Russia is US dollar. The domestic currency is Russian ruble, of course, but if Russia wants to buy something, any Russian company or a person wants to buy something abroad, then they must pay in US dollars. You want to buy something in China, you have a company, you'd like to buy, let's say, 10,000 TV sets, import into Russia and resell in Russian stores. You go to the Chinese and they say, no problem, we'll sell it to you. We need American dollars. Or the Chinese yuan, but usually it's American dollars. That's the currency of choice for most businessmen. And it's Russia receives payments for export payments for its bread makers, natural gas and oil in US dollars as well. So I predicted that Russian state, will not run out of money completely because it has tools for creating extra money. And one of the tools is the exchange rate. Let's say 1 barrel of oil costs, it's just hypothetical price, $100. So it's easy to calculate. And if $100 costs 9,000 rubles at the exchange rate of 90 rubles per $1. So if you go to a bank and exchange $1 for rubles, $1 can buy you 90 rubles. So let's say if the exchange rate is 1 to 90, then you sell worth $100 worth of oil to the West, and then you receive 9,000, $100, and then you turn into 9,000 rubles. But let's say you increase the exchange rate by 10 rubles to 100 rubles. Now, for the same amount of US dollars, you receive 10,000 rubles. You just created 1,000 rubles out of thin air, just like that. If you're Russian government, you can do that. So the companies who receive money, they belong to the state anyway, and they pay more dollars, more income tax, and this is how Russian government fills the budget with rubles. Okay, so another tool it has is taxes, fees, fines, and I also forecasted that the Russian government will be increasing taxes and all kinds of fines and fees it can simply get its hands on. And it is happening. It is absolute true. So I'm giving it yes. The taxation is changed starting in 2 days. All corporate income tax is increased by 5% from 20% to 25%. And that will cause the increase of prices for everything, for Russian consumers, for Russian businesses. And the government will be getting more money. Russian people will be picking up the bill, and the government will be, they will have less disposable money in their pockets, and Russian government will have more. And the reason number 3, Russian government will not run out of money in 2024, has not run out of money, because it has turned on the printing press. It just basically has printed $2 trillion. It's much more complicated process than just printing money, but the idea is the same. It has created 2 trillion rubles, 1 trillion in late November on the 26th, and then 2 weeks later, another trillion rubles, 2 trillion altogether, and just dropped it into the Russian economy to cover the budget deficit. Okay, so it's good to be government with the ability to print money, basically. And what I predicted is Russian government will not run out of money. If it needs money, more money, it will just simply take it from people or print it out. And basically that's exactly what has been happening. So it's a big yes. And
I predict what Russian government will do is they will lower the rate to the rate. Russia will not run out of money in 2024. And the second reason is another way to raise money. Good old tried and true tax increases. The Russian government will start with corporate taxes. It'll be increasing. And people in Russia somehow don't understand that if corporate taxes increase, companies, businesses, corporations, they will charge more for their products and services. And the consumers will pay at the end. They will pick up the bill, you know. But somehow they don't understand. I've heard many times people say, well, that's just for businesses, you know, they don't increase our taxes, you know, income, personal income taxes, so forth. But they will. After they're done with businesses, they will increase personal taxes.
All right, friends, that's exactly what I said. I basically just proved my words. After Vladimir Putin was appointed to the office for the fifth time, the first thing he did, he, increased the taxes, corporate taxes. That's just incredible. And I also have forecast number 8 and forecast number 9. Just give me a second here. Unfortunately, I don't have a video, but I do have written down on paper. Just give me a second here. There you go. I also forecasted that Russia's central bank will be raising the key interest rate throughout 2024, and boom, it happened. In July of 2023, they started at 7%, I believe, with a 7 or 7.5. It's been quite some time already. And right now it's at 21. Many experts, myself included, were expecting the central bank to raise the key interest rate to 23 on December 20th, a few days ago, but they kept it at 21. Well, 21 is record high. It's the highest key interest rate Russia has seen ever with Vladimir Putin in the office. Its influence in Russian economy, it's a very complicated situation, basically. By one hand, Russian state is trying to extract money from the economy, so the inflation is under control. And by another hand, it throws money into the economy, like I said, to keep the war economy going, to keep paying the soldiers, giving them record high sign-up bonuses, paying them record high salaries, flooding military industrial complex with money and so forth. So that's doesn't make any sense what they're doing, and they are not getting any good economic result as because of that. But Russian central bank keeps raising the key interest rate, and 21 is not the end. We will see the interest rate go up by a few points in next year. I don't know by how much. I'm not a magician, but I am sure that it will increase again. Please watch my January 2nd live stream about that. I will be making predictions for 2025. Okay, so high interest rate is there, and the last prediction I made, a forecast I made, is stagflation. Stagflation, I was one of the first economic experts that brought up this word, stagflation. It's a very painful economic situation when your economy is shrinking, but inflation is running wild, is very high. Okay, unemployment is the economy is shrinking, and the key interest rate is very high. So basically, this is a quite rare economic situation, and Russian state has created so many policies lately in the last 3 years that basically many of them contradict each other, and they have been aimed not to support Russian economy, but to support war economy, to support the war that Russia is waging on Ukraine. The politics have defeated economy in Russia. Okay, economy now is a function of politics, and it shouldn't be that way. And I forecasted that this situation would bring Russia into stagflation. Now, some experts argue. Some say that Russia is nearing stagflation. Some saying already has stagflation. One way or another, my forecast has come true. So, 9 forecasts I made, and 8 of them came true. One, I was wrong. I'll remind you, I thought that Russia would enter a period of economic decline in 2024. But no, it's still growing, but it's slowed down, it's stalled. Okay, and it's gonna take another year for the economy to actually start declining, to go in red. And that's gonna be bad. 26 will be bad. 20 is going to be catastrophic. 25 will be bad. 26 will be catastrophic. Well, again, January 2nd, I'm going to talk more in details about what's going to happen, in my mind, in 2025 in Russia. But to sum up, I can tell you that I made a prediction that living standard of Russian people will be declining. And that's exactly what's been happening. I also said that, in my mind, Russian people would not be protesting publicly about that. And that forecast also has unfortunately come true. There hasn't been any protests. There hasn't been any attempts to stand tall and be heard by Russian people. They complain a lot about what's going on in the economy now. They complain about prices. They complain about the useless war. If you talk about them privately, they complain about the politicians in general. Now, I think a lot of more and more people in Russia start realizing that no one really cares about them, about the country. The politicians care about the politicians in Russia care about their seats, their positions. And the elites, they care about the money and the power, and that's pretty much it. More and more people start realizing that. Unfortunately, not enough, but the trend is there. And they complain a lot, but they don't do anything. And that's what I also forecasted. So 9 forecasts, 8 of them have come true. 1 I was wrong about. I think it's pretty darn good. Looking back at 2024, the only thing I can think is it's crazy. The whole year seems like just out of the crazy news update, a news piece out of crazy news update that I do every Friday. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. If someone 5 years ago told me that something like that would be happening in Russia in 5 years, I would not believe that person, and I would simply start laughing. Because 5 years, heck, even 3 years, it seemed absolutely crazy. But now, Russian people, and myself to some extent, we are living this crazy world called Russia. So, thank you so very much for coming and watching today. I will see you soon. Carthago delenda est.